Hi class, it's Miss Miller here, and today what I'd like to do is talk with you about how to extend or extending the sentence. And we're going to be working with this sentence, Michael left the room. But before we do that, let's just take it back from our last video. We look at balancing the bar, which essentially just means to add some information in the sentence to describe or extend on the idea of the who or what, or the subject or the noun, and that part is in red in both the formula as well as the sample. And then we also talked about how to extend or expand the action in the sentence. In this case, it's in blue. We have the formula to the left, and then we have the sample sentence, and I think I'm covering a part of it, so I apologize, but I will read it to you. The competitive, disciplined Michael, athlete of the year, immediately left the gym so that he could reach study hall before it became crowded. This is a beautifully crafted sentence, and it was very deliberate because we had the two adjectives that we wanted to describe for Michael. We wanted to rename him, which is he's also the athlete of the year. What is he also known for? And how did Michael leave this gym? He did it immediately. So here's our opportunity to use the words ending in ly. And we have our why group, which is so that, and then that phrase extends on to the where group, the when group, which gives us before it became crowded. So now we're actually going to take it a step further. So we've done both sides, and we've had plenty of practice doing that. So let's take a look at something else. Now, you probably recall using this ED group before in the prior video where we extended the noun, but I want you to look at some phrases here because we're going to actually use those same ones to now extend the entire sentence. We're just going to attach it to a sentence that's standing all by itself. So adding the ED group, is bothered by the halftime score. These are all just phrases, and I hope you notice that they end in ED. Exhausted from practice the day before, ashamed with his performance, relieved by the physician's report, flagged by the referee. All of the first words in each of these phrases end in ed. And then I also want you to know, in order for it to work, it has by, from, with, by. So those are the ones that are used to help us sort of decide whether or not the ed group is appropriate. If you can't use those words to complete the phrase, then chances are it's not going to fit in with your entire sentence. So here's what it looks like when we sort of attach it to a sentence. We have the before, after, and in the middle. Now, before and after is what we are going to be talking about today. The one in the middle is what we've talked about in our previous video where we talked or discussed how to extend the who or what. Here we are, bothered by the halftime score, comma, and by the way, I put the comma in red so that you notice that before and after in this case, when you're doing the ED group before a sentence, you need to put the comma, before or after. So bothered by the halftime score, Michael left the locker room with his head down. That is your sentence. Remember, originally we had Michael left the locker room with his head down, or just Michael left the locker room. We add the ED group. Now we're putting the ED group at the end of the sentence. So if you go back to our original PowerPoint slide, it said Michael left the locker room, bothered by the halftime score. So we're adding this to the end. You probably remember when we did it in the middle, and that's our last sentence. Michael, bothered by the halftime score, left the locker room. So I wanted you to see that these are all interchangeable. They can go before, they can go after, and it can also be inserted in the middle, which is what we discussed prior to this. So feel free to pause. I'm hoping that you can see some of the differences. And essentially the formula for this would be the ED group, comma, followed by the who or what, plus the action. Pretty simple. It functions in the same way as what you saw before when you do the backwards, when you put it at the end. Here are some patterns that I want you to look at with the ING group. It also is working the same way as the ED group. Avoiding the crowd. Michael left the gym, concealing his face. Here's what I like about the ING group. It functions the same way as the ED. You can put it at the before or at the end of your sentence. And I like it because you can double it up at the beginning or at the end. Look how these work. Avoiding the crowd. Michael left the gym, concealing his face. Avoiding the crowd, concealing his face. Michael left the gym. Notice that I moved the one in the back to the front right after the first one. Let's take a look at the third sentence. Michael left the gym, concealing his face, avoiding the crowd. So now we moved everything to the end. So you can double up the ing group, you can stack it up, you can even add more. So here we have regretting his past performance, comma, Michael left the gym, comma, concealing his face, avoiding the crowd. So in this case, I put one ing group in the front, then I have my regular sentence, and then I put two phrases ending in ing in the back. I hope you see how that's worked, the patterns with the ing group. It's really fun. And so avoiding the crowd, concealing his face. Okay, so this sort of wraps this up, and I hope you found it helpful. We are going to spend more time this week sort of discussing ways in which you can extend your sentence.